Hi again. It is with great joy that I introduce our next speaker, Dr. Joy Boaler. Joe is a professor of the education at Stanford University, co-founder of ucubed.org, and one of the co-authors of the proposed P through 12 mathematics reform guidelines for the state of California. Mathematics teaching and learning, in particular, how different teaching approaches impact students' learning, how to teach mathematics for a growth mindset, and how equity is promoted in mathematics classrooms. Thank you for joining us today. Apologies for mispronouncing your name.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. And I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you all. I am a professor in the Graduate School of Education at Stanford, co-founder of ucubed, which I'll show you a bit about ucubed later. And as you just heard, I am one of the authors of a new proposed mathematics framework for the state of California, with a big data science emphasis in there. I'm from London in England, and I'm going to talk about K-12 data science across the United States this morning. So I probably don't need to share with anybody in this group that teaching students to be data literate is a really important equity imperative. We need students to be able to separate fact from fiction. We know that they're given misleading information on social media that actually threatens our democracy. So just for many, many reasons, we want to bring data science more centrally into K-12 education. I became connected to this group. I got a request from Steve Levitt, who is a professor of economics. You probably know him from his book, Freakonomics. And he asked if I would connect and help this group bring data science into K-12 education. So you probably all know that there's really been one maths pathway that has dominated college admissions, at least for generations in the US, and that is the pathway to calculus. You may not know that the pathway to calculus is deeply inequitable. It is the only AP course that has more classes in front of it in high school than there are years of high school. So if you're not advanced in middle school, you can't get there. And that pathway you see in front of you of taking middle school courses and then going into algebra and geometry doesn't lead to the highest level courses. So this is set up a system where districts decide to compress courses, put some students on a faster path. Often that decision is made at the beginning of 6th grade. It often uses data from 4th grade. And of course, that system is filled with inequities. And part of the reason we see a very inequitable demographic look of which students are in those higher classes. I appreciate a paper I've recently read by Lewis, Diamond, and Foreman that talks about the ways white privilege plays out in the school system. And one of the ways it highlights is what they call opportunity hoarding, which is particularly prevalent in STEM fields, with parents knowing how to get their students onto that higher track and pushing their way towards that. And of course, the racialized tracking we see is a very glaring example of that. In their paper, they highlight a school that was focused on equity and shared these racial demographics of the higher level courses in high school. And we know that this situation that they highlight in this paper plays out across many schools across the United States. So data science is now a new approved high school course in many states. And one of the lovely things about data science is it bypasses this inequitable system by not requiring that students are advanced in middle school. And in fact, as you can see from that sequence there, students can take the regular middle school classes, go into algebra and geometry, and then take data science. And another course that might follow that is statistics. I was looking at data yesterday showing that students who take statistics are entering the UC system at the same rate as students who finish with calculus. So this is a new pathway, and one of the things I'm very excited about with this, not only is data science a really fascinating topic for high schoolers, but it, as I said, it disrupts that long history of inequitable mathematics tracking that we've had for so long. So in the past year, the entire UC system, the University of California and the Cal State universities issued this statement saying that students can take data science instead of Algebra 2, and that pathway can lead to statistics, and that will be valued by the systems. I actually had a lot of meetings at Stanford to get the same kind of change made for the Stanford Admissions. And this involved a lot of faculty discussion and actually a really good discussions across the faculty about what does it mean if students have taken this data science pathway when they come to Stanford. Does it, do we actually have to have students who've gone through the calculus pathway, or is that data science statistics pathway just as valuable? And of course, there are students who may take both of those, who may take data science and calculus. We see that amongst the really maths interested students. So I can share with you that this movement is nationwide and it's happening right now. So we can see a map of the United States and the number of states that are now allowing data science instead of Algebra 2 and valuing that as students go forward. And as we move into the next 12 months, I expect this map to become increasingly filled in. So I am one of the authors of a new mathematics framework at the state of California. And one of our recommendations is just that students have more flexibility in the high school years. We know that mathematics is a very broad field. There's no reason that everybody should take one part of mathematics that leads to calculus when there's lots of beautiful mathematics inside these other courses. I will also share that we're getting a lot of pushback, and some of the pushback that we're getting is around providing data science, with groups arguing that we can have data science in schools, but it needs to be a low-level alternative, and that calculus should be the only one that really counts for students going forward, at least in STEM. So it's, an ongoing debate. I'm happy to chat with people about that question. In fact, this is a really important group, I think, for thinking about this. If you are wanting to influence what happens in California, the framework is now out for people's comments. And at the bottom there, I have put the email to send comments. And of course, you can just Google that and find out how to do it. But most of the people commenting are those who are opposed to the framework. So I thought I'd share for the rest of our time just some different resources that we've made on UCubed to help with this K-12 data science initiative. So what you see in front of you is something we worked on with Rob Gould, who's a professor of statistics at UCLA and an author of one of the high school data science courses. And we just thought it was really important to set out for schools what is data science in K-12. A lot of schools are now thinking about data science. There are no standards written. It's really pretty open. So we set out what you see in front of you, which is a data science process that we think students can engage in at any age, where they're formulating investigative questions, collecting or looking at data, analyzing it and interpreting it. So we set this out with big ideas all the way up to grade 10. And as well as those big ideas, there are examples of tasks that students can use. Something else has been extremely successful on our website, hundreds of thousands of downloads, is what we're calling a data talk. And we're suggesting to classes, you can start your lessons with this, where you share with students some interesting data. We just saw some fantastic examples from Dr. Bell and Dr. Wood of data I'd love to have students dig into and ask them, what do you notice? What do you wonder what's going on? And as I said, these have been extremely popular. And what I love about these data talks is they really help develop what we call data literacy. So students are actually looking at data and considering, what does that tell me? What do I see here? So I'll show you some of our popular ones. This one I love. I think it really shows the creativity of modern day data. In the maths curriculum, students are introduced to bar graphs and line graphs over and over and over again. There hasn't been an update of the standards or the curriculum to bring in the amazing data visuals that we now have. So this we would show students and ask them, what do you notice? What do you wonder? So if you would like to share in chat anything you notice or wonder, now would be a great time to do that. So we're looking at the success of Steph Curry, who is a very successful basket player on the court, and one that students love to engage with. So another one that I thought I'd share with you, this is part of our agenda. Oh, somebody, Chad, is the asymmetry. Yeah, the question of which hand, is he left or right-handed, is an interesting one. And one of the things we share with teachers is you don't have to be an expert in the content of the data when you share a data talk. If questions come up from students, you can model for them not knowing something, but finding out and looking to find out more. So yeah, I love this particular one. Here's another one that's definitely in our social justice agenda, helping students really understand what it costs to live in different parts of the country, what kind of wages they might need to have a standard of living where they have a 2-bedroom house. This is for older students, and so somebody asked where these data visuals are. So we, on our website, it's called YouCubed, YOU-cubed.org. There's a section on data science and then data talks, and you can find all of these. And then I wanted to share with you one of my undergraduates at Stanford has just created, and we were talking about environmental injustice earlier. And I think this is a really interesting, close to home example of some of the things that aren't very well known. So this particular student that made this is from Louisiana, and she, when we were learning about data science and data visuals, she immediately wanted to educate people about this issue in Louisiana. Environmental and racial justice obviously is a big theme. So really gives a great opportunity for students to both learn about data and learn about important issues. So as I mentioned, those are all on YouCubed. People can find them if they would like to see them. What's different, the New York Times and other places does something similar. What's different about ours is we've made sure that there are examples that go down to kindergarten so that all students can be developing this data literacy. We have other things. I made an online class for teachers to learn the importance of data science, and that's also on our website. And then something that we're very excited about is we made a high school course ourselves at Stanford. We partnered with Google in making this course. It's a project-based course. And we had a team of academics, but also real data scientists advising us. And by the way, if anyone here wants to work with us in this K-12 data science movement, do get in touch with me. These are the units of the course where students are really bringing in things that are important to them in conducting data investigations. It's very much centers student agency, asking their own questions, looking at real data. It brings in a number of technology areas. And of course, a lot of really important mathematics. So I can share that even though we only released this course as a trial in the past year, we already have over 40,000 students taking it. And what I am really appreciative of is that the students taking it, as you can see there, and not just the students who are on that advanced track. It's a much more diverse group of students. So I thought I'd play you a couple of minutes of some students talking about the course. I think that's a really good way of understanding what this is doing for students. Just tell me, what is this course about? What is it like for you? Just describe it for me. Any of you can start.
Well, for me, I think it's a good mix of challenging and fun. I had a lot of trouble with the coding aspects of data science because I myself am not very good at being patient and saving my work. So, but that's that. But I think something really fun about data science is that it offers me a lot of insight about like how our society works and why our society works the way it does and what do we need to change about society. And I think like for me, the current unit that we're doing on like colorism and exploring like how people perceive colorism is really important for me because I like to think of myself as like sort of progressive in terms of like perceiving representation, but listening to like my other classmates talk about their perception of colorism and like how they approach it really offers me some like I need to continuously learn more and more about it, and that my perception will never be perfect, but I'm getting there, I think.
That's great, thank you. What do the others think?
For someone who hasn't taken the course, I think I would say that it's like we're given this set of data and then it's up to us to interpret the meaning of it and how we choose to represent it. And like April said, unlike other math courses, it really isn't applicable to society today. And I think just from looking at the data and then also getting tools on how to interpret it, like coding, graphing, and presentations, that you can pull a lot of meaning from it.
I think one of the other things that's really important is that in analyzing and interpreting it, you're also able to make it more accessible to other people. So a lot of times, like you're given just a bunch of data and you're like, I have no idea what to do with this. But in the course, we're taught like how to use what we know and how to visualize that in order to make it accessible to people who don't have that opportunity to analyze it themselves. And I think that's something that is something that we don't normally do in math courses. It's just like, oh, I have a set of numbers, this is what it is. But here we're trying to figure out, like, the question that we always go back to is like, what does the story tell? Like, what does this data story tell? And I think that's something that's really important that isn't always touched on.
Yeah, I think it shows like a lot of behind the scenes of things that we don't really know. Like we watched a video about the terms and conditions of different apps, and like a lot of us weren't aware of that, but it's part of like data collection and privacy.
So we love getting feedback from the students. As you can see, a lot of them are really contrasting a data science course with their traditional math courses that they've experienced over the course of their education. So I thought I'd finish with some words from Rob Gold. As I said, he's a professor of statistics, has been very influential in the changes. And he believes that data science is a great prelude to a stats course, and actually what AP Stats students need, because it gives them that broader base of understanding why methods are important. And as he says, all students need data science. Some students need calculus. So do get in touch with me, or maybe we can chat after right now. I see there's quite a few questions in the chat and I'm happy to answer any.
Well, thanks so much, Dr. Boaler. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Boaler.
Boaler, and I know you've told me that before, so my apologies.
No, that's it.
I'm a bit thick sometimes. One of the things I think just for our broader community that's here that's worth acknowledging is that I think there are, as you've suggested, a lot of initiatives in the space, and a lot of folks are really thinking about how does data science either complement or sort of subvert some of the mathematics structures that have been there that have, for whatever reason, which I think there's a lot of evidence about this, but have limited pathways for certain types of marginalized communities, right? And we haven't really addressed that. Yeah, and certainly, we within QSide were part of this as part of the National Math Festival, where we just recently worked on a high school datathon and a math or the proto elements of a math curriculum. It's not quite as robust as what you've got there. So if there are members here or folks in attendance who are keen on this conversation and would like to participate, please do be in touch, because I think there's an opportunity. The work that we're doing is more on like social justice data science curriculum, very explicitly. And we, as you know, have worked with Dr. Gold as well and some others in the space. So let's get to our attendees' questions, and I'll stop pontificating. So as written, the Stanford math paragraph makes it seem like it's welcoming applications who have data science on top of 4 years of, I'm assuming this means more traditional curriculum. Isn't that actually making that even harder?
Yeah, I do not think that is the intention of that statement. And people really poured over the language of it for a long time, as you might imagine. They're trying to say in that statement that there are different possible pathways that students might take coming into Stanford, and that they are welcoming the different ones that they list there. They're not suggesting that you do them all on top of each other.
Okay, so this is actually, I see, I was misreading the question. It's applicants to become Stanford undergraduates. It's like, I see, okay, that's an interesting question. So here's one, which I think we can get through in about 15 seconds. Would Professor Boaler be willing to make any comments on the recent elimination in Florida of all the math books in the K-12 school system, with the apparent exception of a single one produced by a company where Glenn Youngkin is a senior corporate officer, with the seeming pretext that the eliminated books contain critical race theory, which we all really know, the graduate level curriculum.
Yes, sigh. I don't know what to say about what's going on with this at the moment in Florida. Obviously, these books that were eliminated do not bring in critical race theory. So I know that they were eliminating books if they address the socio-emotional well-being of kids. A lot of things that people know to be really important in mathematics. So yeah, I'm not a fan.
One can only imagine. So Dr. Boaler, like, where do you envision the curriculum, like, where do you envision the curriculum if it were to be adopted? Sorry, it's not a curriculum, it's a curricular framework. I apologize. So where do you envision sort of it having the greatest impact? Like, where the spaces where you feel like there are potential school systems in the state of California that might be really ready and very hungry for this kind of reform?
Well, this is a framework and it's not mandatory. It gives advice. Despite that, it's, as I said, generated a lot of people who are very upset about it. And they're upset because it has a strong equity initiative saying that what's happening now in mathematics is not okay. I can tell you that in California, 1/3 of students are proficient in maths across K-12. So, I mean, clearly something has to change. And this is what this framework does. The other misconception about the framework is that this set of authors has just written it. In fact, a lot of people point everything on me as though I just wrote it, but it came from a committee that met for an entire year of educators from across the state, setting out what they wanted in the framework. We were the people who put words to their ideas. So I think there are a lot of districts and county offices that are absolutely ready for these changes. They've been waiting for them. They know that it's what's important. And we'll go work with schools and districts to learn what's in the framework.
Great. Well, we can continue the conversation in our Zoom room. From here, let me make sure we don't have any other questions that I haven't answered.
There's a few actually, but I can answer them in the Zoom room.
Yeah. Well, hi, Spencer. Spencer just wants some of your materials to share with his high school class.
Great.
So yeah. And he does some research with us on
mean,
our research labs.
Somebody is asking, like, who is pushing back? And where's that coming from? And I can say it's not coming from the education system. It's not coming from schools. They're absolutely thrilled about having a different maths option for kids. It's actually a group of very successful STEM professors who have come together, and they're arguing that the pathway they went through should be the pathway that students continue to go through, and with no changes to that. And a lot of people are suspicious of their motives in wanting to keep the system exactly the same. But across different states, there's really important work going on and support from the offices, the districts, the county offices, the schools, and a lot of support for these changes. Unfortunately, the people who are against them often have the loudest voices and get the most attention, but we're hoping that good sense will win out in the end.